Good with that. Hi there. I am Richard Evans. I am an assistant council commissioner here with Crossroads of the West. I've been involved in scouting for better than 45 years, boy and adult. I've been, came up through the patrols, explorers, scoutmaster, all kinds of different positions. And for the last years, I have been a commissioner in many different kinds of forms. That's something of a background for me. I'm going to go ahead and get us started on this presentation. This course today is BCS 101 Core Concepts of Unit Service. For those of you who are working towards a bachelor's degree in the College of Commissioner Science, this is a required course. So if you're here, you can go ahead and fill this little box. It's also a really good basis for understanding some of the basic ideas of what commissioner service is, and most especially when it comes to unit commissioners. The position of commissioner is one of the oldest in scouting. This course reviews and reinforces the commissioner core concepts and identifies the key skills needed for a commissioner to be able to assess the units that they serve. The objectives of this course are to describe the commissioner's core concepts, mission, vision, objectives, and goals. It also defines and identifies the roles and types of commissioners, and also states what is needed to become a good commissioner and to apply this new knowledge and understanding for exceptional unit service. In the early days of the BSA, units were organized by resourceful individuals who sometimes had to acquire materials from England and other places to make scouting happen. These first organizers were commissioners. In 1916, some of these commissioners were asked to become scout executives. A few accepted the position, and the field executive position was born. This shift eventually led to the separation of the role of the executive and the commissioner. This began a partnership between volunteers and professionals that exists still today. The position of commissioner is one of the oldest in scouting and is the origin of the professional scouting positions, which is why professional scouters wear the wreath of service as well. I'm going to stop for just a moment. This was talked about in the previous class. A little bit of trivia. Actually, the name of that wreath is called a kudo. So a kudo is not a candy bar. A kudo is actually a wreath worn on the head. It was originally worn by the ancient Greeks as a symbol of excellence. The Romans began wearing it as a symbol of service. The first citizen and eventually the emperor wore it on his head, basically showing that they were the first servant of the empire. And eventually, when the Western civilization adopted it, it became excellence in service. It combined both of those. So when you hear the term kudos to you, that's actually what you're talking about, is that wreath. A little bit of trivia. As councils grew, more help was needed. The councils began to divide the workload into manageable districts where the district commissioner structure emerged. In the 1940s, a need for units serving commissioners was apparent. The workload on district commissioners and deputy commissioners was too heavy, and a more personal touch was needed. The position of neighborhood commissioner was created to fill this gap. These neighborhood commissioners would usually serve only up to 4 units. By the 1960s, the terminology changed, as did the structure. Neighborhood commissioners were now known as unit commissioners and only served a maximum of 3 units. All deputy positions were changed to assistant. Commissioner unit service, as we know it today, began to take shape. Positions today include the National Commissioner. Each council has a council commissioner and assistant council commissioners, such as myself. At the district level, you will find most of the BSA's commissioners serving, whether as district commissioner, assistant district commissioner, roundtable commissioner, or unit commissioners. The unit commissioner being the most important of all the rest, because of the unit service they provide. Without that service, we would have no reason to have any other position. As commissioners, we share the BSA's mission to prepare youth to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and law. And also, our vision is that every member of the BSA has a great scouting experience. Commissioners need to focus on 5 primary objectives as displayed here on the screen. Supporting unit growth and retention in Journey to Excellence. JTE measures performance characteristics that unlock the door to a successful unit. We should analyze the unit's program and identify JTE areas where help is needed to move the unit to a higher level of JTE success. A new and revised annual service plan will help support this task. Second, contacting units and capturing in commissioners' tools their strengths, needs, and a unit service plan that enables continuing improvement. Our core task remains making significant contacts with units over the course of a year. Commissioner Tools enables commissioners to develop a customized unit service plan to address identified needs. A commissioner's core task remains making meaningful, significant contacts with the units over the years. Commissioner Tools enables commissioners to develop a customized unit service plan to address identified needs. Commissioner Tools enables commissioners to help access the strengths or assess the strengths and needs of the units and develop a customized unit service plan to address those identified needs. In using Commissioner Tools, a commissioner becomes more familiar with the Journey to Excellence Award and how each unit is progressing toward their goals in the Journey to Excellence. This is a good indicator of the health of the unit. The concept of linkage is critical to our executive mission. The unit commissioner is a link to the subject matter experts and resources who reside at the district committee level. If certain subject matter expertise does not exist, commissioners should support the efforts of the District Key 3 to recruit and deploy the right resource specialists. The unit service plan is used to capture the specifics of the linkages that need to be established. Support timely unit, district, and council charter renewal. Commissioners own unit retention. A quality program attracts youth and adults to scouting and is a key factor in retaining them. To fulfill our mission in helping units better serve more youth through scouting, we should support the district operating committee's efforts to build membership and meet our responsibility to increase unit retention. Effective and timely charter renewal is a key part of retaining units. And finally, supporting unit leaders by collecting and distributing information, enabling program training, and providing networking opportunities. Encourage your leaders to attend roundtables by explaining what this resource is, and set the example by attending yourself. And our goals are to enable an increased number of units, enable the retention rate of those units that exist, enable implementation of a unit service plan through a collaborative, detailed assessment, and an increased number of significant unit contacts. Here's an example of a commissioner staff organization. Just taking a look at that, you can see that this pretty much generally shows what a district would look like with the district commissioner on top. It also shows ADC service areas. They may or may not exist. There may be more of them or fewer of them, depending upon how large the district is and how many commissions there are. But you generally will have a single ADC who is generally responsible for unit commissioners and how those contacts are being made. And then you have the ADC for Roundtable with an entire staff of Roundtable commissioners underneath, an ADC for training, and then any others that may be necessary for administration, helping and assisting the district commissioner in their particular roles. There are three types of commissioners. The unit commissioner. Perhaps no other members of the unit service team have a more important or demanding responsibility. As friends, coaches, and counselors of unit leaders, unit commissioners operate quietly, generally in the background. They are effective communicators, providing the resources of the district and council to the units they serve. They provide aid to chartered organizations that operate the units through the charters from the Boy Scouts of America. Roundtable commissioners. The district roundtables fall under the guidance of the Assistant District Commissioner for Roundtable. This individual oversees the district roundtables in all program areas, reports to the district commissioner, and works with the district structure. In addition, the Assistant District Commissioner should make the National Roundtable Guide materials, should make sure that the National Roundtable Guide materials are used so that the units are getting the proper program materials. And then administrative commissioners. Those that are not unit commissioners or roundtable commissioners are administrative commissioners. This includes the district commissioner and assistant district commissioners. The district commissioner leads the commissioner staff of the district, guiding and measuring the district units' service function of the program. The district commissioner works directly with the district chair and the district professional as part of the district key three. Assistant district commissioners work closely with the district commissioner and district executive. This team must have a vision of effective scouting, and they must communicate that vision through unit commissioners to every unit in the district. The best approach to help establish relationship with leaders in your assigned units is to use this coach mindset. C, clarify expectations and needs. Establish a level of trust. O, observe through evaluation and inspection, conversations, and through direct observation. A, ask, active listening, being present and asking questions. Getting a status, knowing the issues and impact. C, collaborate. Engage in two-way conversations. Ask more questions. Giving and receiving feedback, both supportive and constructive. And finally, H, help. Be supportive, authentic, consistent, and confidential. Provide resources and always follow up. Because of the many programs and activities of scouting, unit commissioners might find themselves promoting projects, carrying messages, acting as judges, running FOS campaigns, etc. While all these activities are unquestionably important, they are not the primary responsibilities of unit commissioners. Unit commissioners do cooperate with other scouting personnel to support scouting activities, even though they are not responsible for them. So don't feel guilty about occasionally saying no to other requests. In other words, avoid the trap. Prioritize towards servicing your units. Although some commissioners may be registered on a unit committee because they have a scout in a unit or because of the previous personal history in a unit, their principal scouting obligation must be with the commissioner responsibilities. It is recommended that commissioners should not be a member of the unit they serve. And finally, a commissioner might be tempted to give the most attention to the healthiest and most active units because these are fun, and these are fun units to be around. Focus your time on the units that need your help the most so that you can help them become healthy and an active unit. The most important thing a commissioner can do is get to know their units. Get to know the unit adults, and become a friend. Do unit people view you as a person who really cares, understand the environment, the chartered organization, history, and experience of leaders? Each unit is different, and each one has subtly different ways of approaching things. You need to learn about these units individually. Certainly is never cookie cutter. When attending unit meetings such as committee meetings, PAC meetings, or troop meetings, use this opportunity to keep your mouth quiet and your ears open. Be sure to go in uniform. Watch and listen. Don't disrupt the program. Stay for the entire meeting, but do not participate unless they ask for assistance. You are a guest and an observer. Make note of attendance. Depending on the kind of meeting being attended, is it nearly 75% of registered scout leaders or scouts? And then planning. Do things seem to move smoothly? Adult leadership, are they actively involved? Do they seem to enjoy the meeting? Once the unit adults begin to view you as a friend, they will begin to open up to you and discuss some of the challenges they may have. BSA has defined a unit visit or contact as a meaningful exchange between a commissioner and one or more members of a unit. Normally, you should make a visit to your units monthly. However, unit contacts must be made often enough to accomplish your mission. Only you can say how often that needs to be. You should be close enough to your units to know what is happening and help strengthen their capabilities to deliver a quality program. There are different types of contacts: telephone calls, emails, text messages, to give or receive information or to follow up. You can visit informally with unit leaders at roundtables. Encourage attendance and participation. Attending a unit event. Visit your unit as they participate in a district or council event. And when you need to make a quick contact, email works very well. But don't let email substitute for personal interaction. Don't feel that just because you made contact, you are successful as a commissioner. When your unit is moving towards completion of their Journey to Excellence criteria and have a good unit program, then you are successful as a commissioner. Okay, I'm going to stop blabbing for just a moment, and I'm going to kind of open this up because I'd like to talk a little bit with all of you about unit contacts. How many of you, how about one of you jump on in there as a unit commissioner and tell me about your unit contacts? And this is especially pertinent given that we've been in this whole COVID mess for the last year. Anyone?
Okay, this is Jimmy. Recently returned from living in Kentucky for several years and working with units on Fort Knox, Kentucky. And during the Zoom time, then my visits were a lot less, but I still had Zoom meetings with them on a weekly basis, invited to them. They invited me to committee meetings. So there's a lot of things I can still do as unit commissioner. I would send emails out to my units on a regular basis. So, and in phone calls, probably less often because we're always busy. But I think there's just many, many useful ways. And Zoom was a good one when you couldn't go visit in person.
Thank you, Jimmy. That's excellent. Anyone here has had experience as a new unit commissioner? That is a unit that is less than 3 years old and is only just now starting to get established. Any comments regarding that? Okay, well, let me interject for a moment then about that. I've actually worked with a lot of new units. Normally, the ratio of 1 to 3 is not held for new unit commissioners. It's because they require a lot more time. Oftentimes, it is 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 at the very most. And oftentimes, when you're dealing with the leaders in a new unit, they not only are not trained, they really don't even necessarily understand what scouting is about. And you are the example of what scouting is, and the principles and what we're trying to do. So that is a very special kind of a unit. Any other comments that someone would like to make about making contacts with other units?
I'll say something, Rich. As I mentioned earlier, I live down in Price, and so one of my challenges, we have a really up and going unit right here in Price, but then we also have units in distant cities, small cities, and so that's a challenge for me. I guess that's why I'm teaching, being a commissioner in a rural setting, but it is difficult to be able to be effective, when you're so spread out.
Yes, that is certainly true. I've run into that myself. I was the one and only unit commissioner south of Tucson, all the way down to the Mexico border, and boy, is it really tough to be traveling all over the place there. Yeah, it does take quite a lot of work, and we have that particular challenge virtually everywhere here in Crossroads. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Okay. So after your visit, as soon as possible, record as a simple assessment in Commissioner Tools located at myscouting.org or the mobile app My Scouting Tools. As you assist the unit in meeting their needs, the simple assessments you perform will help you track your units. Most people's time is limited, so concentrate your energies on the unit needs you have identified and are most important. Something to keep in mind, Commissioner Tools are not just for other commissioners to read. They are for you as well. Prior to making a contact, I will often go back and review my notes in Commissioner Tools. This reminds me of what is going on and what to ask questions about. Another thing, a technique that I have personally used, especially when I am just starting to learn and introduce myself to a new unit, I tend not to take very many notes while I'm there. If I am asked for information and I am going to go back to my district or to the council, then I will write those kinds of things down. But I will not take notes just willy-nilly while in a meeting. The reason for this is oftentimes the unit sees the unit commissioner, especially when they haven't gotten to know them, as inspectors. And you have to establish a certain degree of trust. And so I will generally not make any notes at all about what's going on. And then I get in the car, drive about 5 minutes, and then start writing up all of my notes so that I'm prepared to go ahead and enter that into Commissioner Tools. It makes the units far more comfortable with your meeting, with your contact with them, and they don't feel like they're being inspected. Just a little side note. So, an important thing that you need to do is to track the needs and desired improvement for each of your units. The best way to do this is to complete a simple and/or detailed assessment for each unit in conjunction with the unit T3, chart organization representative, committee chair, and Cub Master, Scout Master, or crew advisor. A detailed assessment should be completed twice annually. This will help to identify areas of concern, such as a lack of trained leaders, no new membership, non-functioning or poorly planned programming, financial issues, and so on. I have found it most comfortable to do the first detailed assessment just after completion of rechartering. This one sets the goals and establishes the unit's service plan. The second assessment can be done soon after the summer camp activities are done. The unit tends to relax a bit then and take a breather. The assessment reviews the unit service plan and identifies what needs more or less emphasis. Highlight the most urgent needs and problems. In conjunction with the unit leaders, help identify and prioritize those needs. After identifying urgent needs and issues, build a unit service plan to develop an action plan. Be considerate of your personal time and the time of the unit. Concentrate your commissioner energies on the most urgent needs. Also keep in mind that the detailed assessment and journey to excellence are really the same thing. They both have the same goals: excellence in scouting and the scouting experience. Keep this in your own mind and in the minds of the unit leaders. Gives more meaning to the process, sets goals, and provides a sense of accomplishment. There are issues which must be high priorities for commissioners because there are major threats to unit survival and/or indications that youth may not be receiving a good scouting program. Let's talk for a few minutes. What are some priority issues that you feel ought to be addressed? So what are some biggies that you guys see?
I would say, for one thing, that they meet regularly. With COVID, that put put everybody at a disadvantage. It was hard for them to meet, but now they should be meeting, weekly, and going through the program that's designed for the scouts.
Good. Units actually meeting. Good. What's another one?
They've got to be outdoors. Scouting is an outdoor thing, so we got to see that they're doing the monthly camping.
I think every scout deserves a trained leader, and I think training's got to be one of those key points, so that those leaders learn what they're supposed to do, not just what they thought they were supposed to do.
Great.
So I'd just like to say is retaining the scouts once they've got their eagles. That's a big problem. Is having boys continue on and become the junior leaders in the troop. Anyway, that's one of the things that we're struggling with right now.
Good. Any other ideas?
I hate to give a bad example, but I asked, as a unit leader as well with a pack, I asked our unit commissioner to help me. We're a brand new pack, go through line by line, journey to excellence form, and I didn't hear from him for that or with rechartering at all, and that was hard. So it's a definite need, especially for new units, to go these things, to take our hand and step carefully. It makes it really hard when it falls through.
Yes, I can certainly see why that would be the case. And that is definitely a difficulty. How did you handle that? Did you get in contact with the district commissioner at all?
Yes, and working with the district key 3, the district commissioner, working with district executive as well. We got through it. But
okay. Well, I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, we have some excellent assistant district commissioners as well, so who fill in where gaps exist.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that is at least working out for you. That is unfortunate to hear of something like that. A few other ideas, kind of in the laundry list, and I'm going to include one that is not on the laundry list. A unit with weak leadership, no active committee. I've actually run into that with new units where you got the scoutmaster, maybe even an assistant scoutmaster. You've got a few youth. Oh, we're supposed to have a committee, and they're actually supposed to do something. It's happened to me before. Okay, and the big problem with that, of course, is that everything gets piled onto the scoutmaster, and it makes it very difficult for that person to do their job. But there's another one that I brought up in our last commissioners meeting, and I'd like to bring up now, and that is you want to make sure as a unit commissioner that not only do they have those key positions filled, but they have deputies. For example, they have an assistant scoutmaster who is able to step in, a deputy chairman, a deputy treasurer, and also one that has become much more important here in Crossroads than before, a fundraiser. In the past, fundraising position was not a terribly important position. Now it has become critically important. I have actually personally seen units that were quite strong and were doing very well, but they lost one of those key positions. They had no deputies at all to fill it, and the unit has collapsed. And this can be a serious threat, and people just don't really think about it. And what's really kind of interesting and a little bit bothersome is that this idea of a fill-in, a deputy, a replacement is nowhere in the BSA literature. And it really ought to be. And I'm working on that, because you need to have somebody standing in the wings, an understudy, somebody to fill in a position. And that is a weakness. Should that person go, it can cause serious problems. Any other comments anyone would like to make about this and critical issues that need to be addressed?
I think we need also parent involvement.
Yes. Yes, parental involvement. I see from your uniform that you're heavily involved in the Cubs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, in Cub Scouts, parental involvement is important, very important. As a matter of fact, it's critical. You can't really have a program without it. But all too often, once they enter into the Scouts, or especially into the Ventures, the parents start treating BSA as babysitters of America instead of the Boy Scouts of America or Scouts BSA. Parents need to be involved. They don't need to be involved heavily and deeply, but they are a part of the community, and they need to be involved with that. Is that what you're kind of referring to?
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can you talk further about the unit service plan? How does a commissioner devise one? How does he share it with the key three, et cetera, et cetera?
Right, right. You know, I can address that a little bit. There are some pretty dry materials on the unit service plan and stuff like that. And I have nothing on my script here about how to put that together and all the rest of that stuff, but I've done it so many times, and I've found certain techniques. First of all, you don't want to jump in first meeting, okay, let's do a unit service plan. That's a really bad idea. Once again, what this looks like and feels like is you're playing Inspector General out here, and nobody likes that. Okay, so you want to get familiar with them, meet with them several months so they know who you are, what you are. During that time, make references, most especially to JTE, not necessarily the unit service plan. Okay, you might want to kind of slide that in, but remember, JTE and the unit service plan and a detailed assessment are really different sides of the same cube. They are all very much the same thing, and they all work towards the same goals. Like I said, my preferred time is to do the detailed assessment right after rechartering. They've gone through all of this paperwork. They know exactly where their unit is, all the rest of that stuff. Sometimes timing just doesn't work that way. When I sit down, what I will do is I will schedule a meeting between the key three and myself. And if other people want to be involved, that's great, but you really do need to have those key three there. Chartered organization representative, chairman, and whoever the Cub Master, Scout Master, or Venture Advisor is. You need those three. This is tricky because a lot of times the COR doesn't really feel like they want to be involved. This is where you have an opportunity to get them involved. And you really do want to make sure that they are actually there. And there are different ways that you can go through this thing. I prefer to go through it from the JTE perspective. It's relatively short, it's simple, and it tells you exactly what it is that makes a good unit good. Okay? From there, you can actually do a detailed assessment and say, okay, this is what good stuff is, and these are where you guys are. From there, it's just a logical step to go to a unit service plan. And the unit service plan is basically saying, we're good here, we ain't so hot here. The important thing is that it's the unit, not the commissioner. who is identifying those weaknesses. And as you're talking through JTE, through assessment, and finally to unit service plan, they will go through that process of self-discovery and see where they have their weaknesses. Now you've got that unit service plan, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what that should look like in, I think, just the next slide, I believe. And that's where you actually come up with your plan on how to fix those problems. Now,
Rick?
this is, yes.
I just Googled unit service plan, and I came up on my scouting a thing that has 8 pages that talks about the unit service plan. So that might be someplace you want to look.
Are you saying I'm saying something wrong?
No, no,
okay.
I'm saying that it's there in my scouting.
Right. And it is there. There's tons of literature on this. I'm just kind of describing what I have found to be very, very comfortable. I have never liked being inspected. Okay, back when I was a young lieutenant, I hated it when the inspector general comes in there. So I am keenly aware of the emotions that people have about it. It's kind of why I'm describing this in a much more informal manner. But I have found that this has been very effective. The key important part about this is that it is goal-oriented and that those goals are actually discovered by the unit key 3 themselves and not dictated by the unit commissioner. And they will do that. We're basically just, as unit commissioners, we're doing this as a guided experience. Does that kind of answer your question, Ron?
Yes, thank you for reviewing that.
Okay. Like I said, there's tons and tons of literature on this, but it is dry as a bone, and just really doing it in a friendly, courteous way. And one of the ways, not necessarily the only way, one of the ways is the way that I just described it. I like to emphasize JTE to unit service plan in that direction instead of the other way around. Just kind of depends. So, as I said, it's the next slide on this thing. Using the detailed assessment will help you to do a thorough review of the unit and how they are doing in key areas of focus. Working with the unit key 3 and other adults, if appropriate, help to identify their concerns and decide if the concern is really a problem. Now, that's an important issue. Simply because somebody has a concern, it doesn't necessarily mean it's actually a problem. It is for the key 3 and any other people who are involved in the organization to decide if a concern is really a problem. And this is something that oftentimes gets missed because people are concerned about stuff. You start dedicating resources to it, you spend months on it, only to discover it really wasn't a problem there to fix in the first place. It does happen. I mean, it happens in our lives all the time. Set some goals with the key 3. Allow them to drive the conversation. Your job primarily is to help them to identify the concerns or problems and set goals to address them. Sometimes the unit may have issues that you are not sure how to deal with. This is a great time to have a discussion with your assistant district commissioner or district commissioner. Together, you should be able to find the tools necessary to help with the problem. Once again, I'm going to interject a personal observation and experience myself. I have never in 45 years ever been a member of a committee. I have worked as a commissioner and scoutmaster, venture advisor, all kinds of different jobs. I have never been on a committee. I don't know anything about it. All I really know is the general job and how they're supposed to be doing it and why they're supposed to be doing it. If you get into the weeds with me about what in the world the treasurer is supposed to do, don't even ask me about fundraising. Okay, I am clueless about that. But I know how to find resources that do know about those kinds of things. Unit commissioner is not necessarily expected to answer every single problem. I can't. I can answer a lot of different things when it comes to the other kinds of issues that deal with being a scoutmaster or program and stuff like that. But if it's an issue that you cannot answer, own it. I do, and I have told my units that. I don't know that stuff, but I will get the answer. And I get the answer quickly. That is very, very important. Units should be encouraged to work on their own problems with your help if necessary. However, some problems may be out of their experience level. This is where it is important to link those needs to the resources of the district. Excuse me. Here are some steps to follow in handling an issue. Develop a unit service plan. Use SMART goals. That is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Be sure to list who is responsible for what and what the timeline is for assessing progress. Once the plan is in motion, be sure to evaluate the effectiveness of the plan. This is where reviewing your contacts in Commissioner Tools can help you keep those issues and progress to solving them in mind. Remember, I mentioned that thing that I go back and look at my own Commissioner Tools to remind me of what needs to be looked at and what to ask questions about. We've all been in this kind of a situation. We're all adults, we've had children, we've been in different kinds of jobs. We tend to let things fall through the cracks. The person who catches the stuff that falls through the cracks is the unit commissioner. When you reach the deadline date, evaluate the progress towards solving the problem. That is what the commissioner does. This is catching stuff through the cracks. If a problem is not moving towards a resolution, work with the unit leaders to evaluate and come up with a new action plan. If you are able to resolve the problem, celebrate it, and then move on to the next area to improve. Notice, there will always be a next area to improve. That is absolutely true. It's just a matter of priorities. And really, it's just moving from one issue to the next. Now, there is further training that you can receive as a unit commissioner and as a commissioner in general that will help you, such as supplemental training at monthly district commissioner meetings. College Commissioner Science. Well, you already know about that one. Wood Badge. National conferences. That was mentioned earlier when we were talking before this course began. Philmont, Florida Sea Basin Summit, and then actually working towards some of the commissioners' awards. These awards can actually give you opportunities to do things and participate in things that will help you to learn more about your job and how you can be a better commissioner. On the BSA National website, the Commissioner landing page has important information for unit service, including news and newsletters, National Service Team members, program support resources, JTE, training, recruiting, awards and recognitions, starting and sustaining units, technology, charter renewal, merchandise, and logos. A useful resource for the commissioners is the unit roadmap, starting, sustaining, and growing units. The unit roadmap will give you guidance on working with the key three of your units. You can find a copy of this manual in PDF form on the National Commissioner's website. As a commissioner, you have made a personal commitment to scouting. It's a commitment of time, effort, and knowledge. It's a commitment of patience and understanding. It's a commitment to be a living example for unit leaders and to lend a helping hand to fellow scouters. So, in summary, there are three types of commissioners, and we've listed those off. There are core concepts that guide commissioners in serving their units, necessary key skills that are needed to be a good commissioner, and to use this knowledge and understanding for exceptional unit service is applied by assessing and recording in Commissioner Tools. Okay, so that pretty much finishes up my presentation. Questions, comments, any other kinds of issues that you would like to bring up? Or are you all tired of listening to me yet? Huh. I appear to have eaten up all my time. Any other final comments anyone would like to make?
I just had a question.
Sure.
So you have roundtable commissioners. Is there any discussion about interaction between roundtable commissioners and the unit commissioners working together to help units? Is that
Okay.
something managed by a unit plan, or
Right.
and all the trainings they separate them completely, but that
Right.
shouldn't necessarily be the case.
Right. I know that I, as a unit commissioner, always went to the roundtables, and that's where I did my kind of interaction. We basically have 3 levels of training, and they're supposed to augment one another. Okay. And really somewhere in there, we've gotten this formal training out online and stuff like that. Basically, you have the formal training that you can obtain from College of Commissioner Science, going to different district training events, and also online. To augment and support that is Roundtable. That's where you get monthly specific kinds of training that go along with that. And the third level of training is the training really kind of provided at the unit level with the unit commissioner. We rather prefer to have a unit commissioner who is experienced and has actually done things before that they're talking about and was successful. I mean, for example, I was a scoutmaster, so I know those kinds of things, and a venture advisor and things like that. But these overlap. And what you're talking about is that overlap that exists between the relationship between unit commissioners and the training and assistance that they provide. This is connected to the roundtables as well. So really, this is why we want to have our unit commissioners going to our roundtables. I will be honest with you. Back when I was with Salt Lake Council, we had the unit commissioners meeting, monthly meeting, at the same time as the roundtable. And I complained bitterly about that because I wanted to be at roundtable so I could talk to these guys. So yes, there should be an interaction between the roundtable commissioner and the unit commissioner, just as there should be an interaction between the roundtable commissioner and the ADC for training. They need to be talking to one another so that the needs are being addressed and they are working in concert with one another. So